right. Good morning, everyone. I think we should be all by now. It's a very nice group to have here again. A year after the first Loudness Summit, I welcome you again here to London, to this special venue. Could we switch to my presentation already? Yeah, please. And you've seen my name. I'll just give you a little bit of background information still. Where I come from, I'm a sound engineer for the Austrian television. I'm also here as the chairman of the European Loudness Group and also as a member of the German Tonmeisters VDT, who are also involved here and supporting this event here. We are here at the Royal Institute of British Architects, a very nice place to be. And I'm a member of another interesting kind of community, which I would call PIEL, which is the Public Institute of European Loudness Nerds. So there are a couple of, organizations that I'm a member of. Just yesterday, I became a member of SMPT. So it's, like in Austria, it's very common that you are a member of at least 10 different organizations. I think Austria has the world record of number of memberships in diverse organizations, so I'm a prime example of that. Anyway, this is where I come from. I come from documentary filmmaking in the Russian Arctic. And for those of you who have lived long enough, in here, in this red box, is a so-called DAT recorder. Do you remember DAT recorder? Yeah. We used to record on these, actually, a couple of years ago, but not anymore. And as I'm from Austria, snow and mountains is, very close to my heart, so you find me these days also hiking up, etc., without my gear, although most of the time I have my microphones with me. Anyway, I am, as I told you, the chairman of the European PLOUD group, and talking about PLOUD, we have toilets down the stairs, so if you, need to do something, then you probably have found it already. So, a couple of things before we start regarding housekeeping. First of all, this event wouldn't be possible without sponsors here, so I would gladly thank our sponsors of the event here for the Loudness Summit this year, especially the two gold sponsors, Dolby and Linear Acoustic. So without them, it wouldn't happen. If there is a fire alarm, then it's a real one. We had one at 8:30, so that was the test one. So if you hear, every siren going off, probably something is terribly on fire. So people will come in and guide us out. So that should be well, no issue. We are not, overly crowded, so that's fine. Please switch your mobile phones off. We all know when you have an Apple phone, because every Apple phone, interestingly, has the same old traditional American analog ring. Anyway, please turn them off. There is two informations regarding presenters I would like to give you before I start. One is that in the program, the very last slot, the broadcaster case study, is covered now by a Swiss colleague, Niklaus Kühne. He agreed on very short notice, actually yesterday, to do that slot, which is great. He will present us how Switzerland prepared and moved to loudness normalization, which is highly interesting, I have to say. So he will cover this slot at the very end, and we'll have the presentation of Tim Carroll via video. I will give you a very short outline of the day in a second too, but these are the two informations that I will give you beforehand. So, the loudness situation in Europe, or in the world, let's concentrate about Europe, is certainly, you can certainly say that the train is gaining speed, a lot of speed. So, a year ago I showed a steam engine here, a steam locomotive, and now we already show the TGV, the rapid train from France. So loudness normalization, to switch to loudness, is definitely gaining speed. And that's really good news in Europe, I have to say. So we are, I can honestly say, over the hill, and it's only a question for a broadcaster when he will switch to loudness normalization and not if anymore. That's exactly what we had originally wanted and intended in the PLOUD group, and we have actually reached that situation, which is just great. So we can almost safely say now, Houston, we had a loudness problem. I mean, there are still a couple of loudness problems around everywhere you look, and of course, not the whole of Europe is switched fully, but it's really looking very, very good in Europe, at least. So I will give you, over the course of the the next hour or so, amongst other things, also an overview what the individual countries do, how far each individual country is, and so that you have an idea of what is happening in Europe, in other areas. So the tide definitely has turned. It's not turning, but it has turned. And a broadcaster really has to look into that. Not only broadcasters, but manufacturers have to look into that. A manufacturer that produces loudness measurements or measurement devices cannot, I think, survive these days unless he's looking into loudness, implementing loudness very seriously. So the revolution is on. It's really the biggest change, I think, that we see in many decades now in audio, and I hope that this change will last, forever, and this is the final kind of turnover to the way we should have been doing it since well, the beginning of audio engineering. So just a very brief outline for you where the individual presenters fit in today. I will give you a kind of basic introduction about the technical parameters. I saw that last year that, it's maybe advantageous that I run very briefly through the main technical parameters of loudness measurement and of metering so that we are all on the same ground, so to speak. And then I will also talk about a couple of peculiarities and issues and misunderstandings so that, after this first hour or so, we are pretty much all on the same level as far as these things is concerned. Then we do have Andrew Mason from the BBC, who will talk about the differences of the major recommendation and standards that we have not only in Europe but also in the US and maybe even in Australia and Japan. Then Simon Tuff from the BBC, from the radio side, will talk about an experiment that the BBC did together with Fraunhofer for Wimbledon, which is related to loudness, yeah, but more to kind of being able to control the level of speech during a broadcast. Then it's a guy called Florian again. He will talk about loudness in radio, so I will give you a brief, very up-to-date information what our loudness group, PLOUD, has recently come up with, what should be the strategy for moving radio to the loudness realm. We just had this week, actually, on Monday and Tuesday, our latest PLOUD meeting in Vienna, and Monday was completely dedicated to radio, so I can give you first-hand information what the European radio group, the subgroup in PLOUD dedicated to radio, will work on in the next months. So that's quite interesting. Then we'll have lunch. After lunch, we'll have Thomas Lund from Denmark. He will talk about loudness in the music world. Highly interesting topic, and one that has been on our minds for many years and decades also. So loudness for music, for iPods, for mobile devices, for mobile TV, etc. We'll have Mark Pascoe from Dolby talk about loudness in a multiplicitous world. So tied also to what Thomas is saying, loudness on diverse platforms. The afternoon is pretty packed, as you will see. We'll have also Felix Krittels from Lavo, but he's a freelance sound engineer too, doing live sports, especially football, and he will talk about live sports broadcasting and loudness for live sports. We'll have Peter Schütt from the Netherlands talking about the famous M word, metadata, something that definitely mustn't be ignored. And we'll have Richard, also one of the presenters from last year, Richard van Everdingen, talking about loudness and distribution. So taking the loudness concept from the broadcaster, moving it all the way to the consumer. And talking about the consumer, we'll have Tim Carroll from Linear Acoustics. He cannot be here with us because his wife is giving birth these days, so he has to stay around. But he recorded his presentation, and we have a video from Tim, so he'll be with us just with this video. Then we have MC Patel from Emotion Systems, talking about the challenges in implementation of loudness-related issues for a broadcaster. And last but not least, as I told you, we have Niklaus Kühne from the Swiss public broadcaster giving us an overview how this transition worked in Switzerland, because they are already in the loudness world for many months now, actually the end of February. So that's giving you a brief overview what we plan here today. So it's going to be a packed day, a dense day. You will hear a lot of information. So hopefully you can bear with us and use all the available time, the breaks, the coffee breaks, the lunch break, also to maybe engage in diverse discussions with presenters and with your colleagues here. So it should be a, hopefully very lively day we spend together here.